Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 165. Lee and Tiffany LAKOSKY, Mach 10, velvet bucks, standing corn ground blind tactics, and tree hinge cutting strategies. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Today's show is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey guys, this is Dan Dace with Tuned In Archery, the timeman and inventor of the Hang On Helper. You're listening to my favorite show. It's about to be yours, Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hi everybody, I'm Michael Waddell with the Bone Collector TV show, and you're getting ready to listen to another episode of the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
I'm Tim Goff here with Scentlock Enforcer, and you're about ready to push play on my favorite podcast, Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay, and once again, we're back. We're back this week to talk deer hunting, and I know that you pushed that play button for a reason, and that's to get some of the best deer hunting information that you can possibly get from some of the most well-known and informative and best deer hunters in the world come to this show, and I get to dissect them bit by bit to find out how they do it so that you can do it too. Now, I wanted to explain to you that one of the people that I interviewed a long time ago, who is now the co-host of the show, Dusty Phillips, did exactly that for us with his Chubby Tines buck. And he is joining us once again right here in the studio. Dusty, what's happening?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Jay. And man, I tell you, bucks are getting their hard horns exposed. The velvet's dropping off. People are hunting. There's all kinds of things going on. The weather's changing a little bit. Start seeing some leaves fall to the ground. It's hunting season.
So what's the forecast in Ohio, Dusty? What are you seeing?
Definitely the crops are real strong this year. The bucks are really slamming the soybeans right now. Just to put that last few inches on, if they're not into the hard antler yet, we're seeing deer that are losing velvet. But it's about a 50, maybe 60-40, 50-50 hard antler velvet right now. Hopefully the weather keeps going in the direction it's headed. It's starting to, the humidity is starting to leave, and leaves are, they're falling, but they're dry. But starting to see some leaves fall. Just things are happening. Crops are real close to being ready to come off the fields, and once they shell the corn around here, it should get the deer stirring.
Gotcha. It sounds like you've been doing your homework, and I have to say that our guests today do their homework too. In fact, they're some of the most detail-oriented when it comes to living the whitetail lifestyle. Like they put so much effort into this, and we're talking about Lee and Tiffany LAKOSKY. We interviewed them a while back. It was one of our early shows, and we learned a lot. But we realized that we just touched the tip of the iceberg, that when it came to what Lee actually puts into his efforts and what he thinks about daily. And we really, really extract a lot from Lee in this show. And we learn so much of his little techniques that he does on that place where he lives and all the things he does all year round. It's going to blow your mind. So you want to stay tuned for all these things that Lee brings to the table. But before we get there, Dusty, let's turn to Jim Keller with the Deer News.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. Our first story, Ted Nugent receives top honor. This story was reported by deeranddeerhunting.com. Ted Nugent rocked Springfield, Missouri on September 3rd, but wasn't at an arena on his acclaimed 2016 Sonic Baptism concert tour. This special stop was at the Archery Hall of Fame induction ceremony, where Nugent was honored with the Dave Staples Golden Award of Merit. Named for archery veteran Dave Staples, who was lauded for more than 50 years of involvement in archery and bow hunting, Nugent is the first to receive the award, and it is close to the outdoorsman's heart. "I am honored and humbled to the core," said Nugent upon being introduced by archery icon Dick Mach and M.R. James. "The mighty mystical flight of the arrow has guided my spirit straight and true north my entire American dream life." Nugent went on to recognize his personal bow and arrow heroes such as Howard Hill, Ben Pearson, Ishii, and of course the late great Fred Bear. Nugent immortalized Bear in the classic hit by the same name, thus introducing millions of sporters and non-sporters alike to the bowhunting legend. Nugent concluded his segment with a heartfelt performance of Fred Bear for the audience of industry notables. Among other honors, Nugent has been named Archery Commissioner of the Great Lakes State Games, Favorite Hunting Personality by readers of Outdoor Magazine, Michigan Conservationist of the Year, and Top 25 Most Influential by Outdoor Life magazine. Nugent has also received the James Fenimore Cooper Award for his accomplishments as a writer and for his enormous contribution to the promotion of hunting and the outdoor lifestyle. Toledo Metro Parks inform Council of Kills. This story was originally written by Ignacio Messina of the Toledo Blade. Metro Parks of Toledo area plans to have sharpshooters kill deer in 2 more parks this winter, following controversial deer kills at Wildwood Preserve Metro Park and Oak Openings Preserve Metro Park earlier this year, officials of the park told Toledo City Council on Tuesday. Deer kills will be conducted in Swan Creek Preserve Metro Park in South Toledo, and Middle Grounds Metro Park, an urban recreation area on 28 acres along the Maumee River near downtown Toledo, said Steve Madwell, Metro Parks Executive Director. The announcement, which was done as a courtesy to Council because its approval is not needed, was met with a barrage of criticism from several councilmen against the plan. Tim Sketter, the Park District's Natural Resources Director, said the kills are considered legal population control of the animal, not hunting. He said the deer in the Toledo area have no natural predators to keep their numbers down, other than some coyotes that will kill the animals occasionally. A contract with the Federal Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, an agency of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, allowed for marksmen to remove up to 200 deer from the 2 metro parks between January 1st and March 31st. Mr. Scatter said 195 deer were killed at Oak Park Openings and Wildwood over 4 nights by 2 sharpshooters in each park. About 6,700 pounds of venison from the kills was donated to the homeless shelters. State lawmakers aim to add tracking number to all ammunition. This story was originally featured on the OutdoorHub.com website and was written by Keenan Crow. Courtesy of Chicago Democrat State Rep. Sonia Harper, the idea to have all bullets traced using bullet serial number technology has been resurrected as an attempt to minimize violence in Chicago. Promoting the new law, along with Harper, is the CEO of Ammo Coding Systems, a company that, not surprisingly, makes and promotes bullet tracking technology. State Representative Harper believes that this is the answer to solve the notorious violence problems in Chicago. According to a WGN-TV article, Harper stated the following in a press conference: "We just want to know how the guns and the bullets are getting in the hands of our youth and causing senseless harm and murder on our streets. These ACS worms have been around for a while, trying to wiggle their way around and push legislation on various state and political politicians, obviously for their profit. Any new law to put individual serial numbers on bullets could potentially create chaos for law-abiding gun owners, causing people to have to fill out paperwork for ammunition the same way you would when purchasing a gun. It would also hike up the cost of ammunition for gun owners." Harper introduced the bill on Tuesday during a press conference. Editorial comment: Before Ms. Harper moves any further with this proposal, maybe she should first determine why a city with some of the most strict gun ownership rules in the United States is experiencing a 12 shootings a day average this summer and quickly moving Chicago to the top of the list for the most murderous cities in the U.S. 7-year prison term in hunting-related shooting. This story was originally reported by OutdoorNews.com. In Elizabethtown, New York, a North Country man has been sentenced to 7 years in prison on charges stemming from the shooting of another hunter nearly 2 years ago. Sean M. LaValle of Moriah received the stiff sentence largely because he was prohibited from owning a firearm at the time of the incident and because of the reckless nature of the shooting, in which the victim was standing on a trail and wearing a blaze orange hat. Essex County Court Judge Richard B. Meyer sentenced LaValle last month to 7 years in prison on an assault conviction, along with 3 years of post-release supervision and payment of $310 in restitution, a $300 surcharge, a crime victim's fee, and a $5,000 fine. An Essex County jury in May found LaValle guilty of second-degree assault, a felony, and fourth-degree criminal possession of a firearm, a misdemeanor. LaValle shot 83-year-old Joseph Rodriguez of Mineville in Essex County on December 1, 2014. Rodriguez was struck by the 12-gauge slug in the lower abdomen and hand and required surgeries and rehabilitation. The case was unique in that it was a hunting-related shooting incident in which the victim was wearing blaze orange in the form of a cap. Blaze orange clothing is suggested but not mandatory in New York State, and many hunters in the northern zone of the state don't wear blaze orange. Rodriguez, described as an experienced hunter, was wearing a camouflage vest and the blaze orange hat. He was shot as he stood in the middle of a trail, officials said. LaValle was represented by the County Public Defender's Office, which described the shooting as a tragic accident. At the time of the incident, LaValle was prohibited from owning a firearm due to a prior felony conviction. LaValle was sent to Essex County Jail following the sentence to await a transfer to the state facility. For a link to this story, as well as the other stories in this week's news, please check our show notes on www.bigbuckregistry.com. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is Lee and Tiffany.
Lee and Tiffany, welcome back to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friends?
Very good. Good to be back.
So how's your life these days now that you have
I was
a young one?
Can you hear the baby crying in the background right now?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Grandma's trying to corral them. And, yep.
Has it changed your life any?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, anybody who says you have a baby, that's not going to change your life. And she's very full of beans, but definitely. But, I mean, you know what? It's changed our life in a good way. Definitely a better way. I mean, I know it definitely makes us be better people.
Is it everything you thought it would be?
Well, I guess having 20-something nieces and nephews, and I came from a family of 7 of us, that's a pretty good idea, but, I guess it's...
I think it's more than I thought it would be, to be honest. I think I didn't think that I would, of course I love my husband, I love my parents and everything, and I love my nieces and nephews, but the love I have for our son is totally off the charts, comparatively speaking to everything else.
It sounds like more fun than I thought it was going to be. Everyone talks about how much work and it's changing everything, but boy, just every day you look forward to getting up in the morning to see that little nugget smile at you.
That's right. It gets you out of bed,
Yeah.
and it's a whole different feeling than anything you've ever felt in your whole life.
Exactly.
A different level of affection. You can only describe it when you have a child. It's just
that's exactly it. Like I said, it's like you love your dogs, you love everything, but it's like I'd take a bullet for that kid in 2 seconds and not even think twice about it.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the way I've felt about my children as well. Yeah. It's interesting. So so now you have a child, and you're trying to teach them the ways of the outdoors. What do you think is going through his head as you try to expose him to all this stuff? Is he just having fun, or are you planting little seeds along the way on how to be a better deer hunter and outdoorsman and things like that?
I don't think there's going to be a problem because he's like exactly the way that I was as a kid.
Yeah.
But now he's just stubborn and he wants to be outside every day. I mean, you put him on a ranger and you can go shoot your bow. You can do things for a couple hours. He just wants to sit on the rangers and do stuff.
Pretend drive it and stuff.
Yeah. You bring him in the house and then it's a little rougher. All he wants to do is go outside. So, being only a year and a half, and he's been in the blind with us, shot 2 turkeys, with their bows and blind and stuff with him. But I think he's all young to understand the hunting part of it, but he sees all the deer and on TV and in our house, and I think he knows all that stuff. But just to start with, he just wants to be outside, just like we are. So I mean, we're off to a good start with it, and I'm
nice. Sure
it'll be the same.
But the day I came home from the hospital with him, I was out for a walk with him. I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of this inside hospital room, So I mean, that's our life, It's like we shed hunt with him. Everything we do that we're able to take him on, he comes on. So I mean, he's just a natural extension of everything that we do. So I mean, to think that he's not going to like being outside is crazy.
This afternoon, it's like 4 hours with him at the ranger checking cameras and feeders, and we're only home for a few days. I got to check all the fields and see how everything's looking and what disasters I got to try to take care of and stuff. But he doesn't make it doesn't make a peep in that thing for 4 hours as long as we're moving and out doing stuff outside in the ranger. He's great.
It's when you sit still. It's another thing. So trying to take them out hunting with us might be a little interesting this year, but we're definitely going to try.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. Yeah, you have to get him out there and see what he does. And it's I think the more you expose them, the better off they'll be down the road, and they'll just be part of their life and being outside.
Absolutely.
And then they'll pass that along to other generations.
Yeah, and I can promise you he's not going to be the type of kid that sits inside and looks on Instagram and things like that. Yeah, plays video games. That's not going to be gamer.
Right, exactly. And we have this ongoing discussion about social media and Instagram. I guess, well, of course, that's part of social media, but the whole social media thing and how kids are looking at things on social media. They're watching YouTube videos of other kids playing video games, which to me is the ultimate in lazy. But it's just, so you
I didn't even know that existed.
Swear to God. And there's some of the most largely downloaded videos on the internet is watching other people play video games. And it blows my mind. I can't get my head around it. We've discussed it ad nauseum. And
no kidding.
It's very strange.
They definitely do not have enough to do because I can't ever imagine doing that. First of all, we don't have the internet strength to actually get away with doing something like that, so I would lose interest immediately, but I can't even fathom that.
No.
To me, that's just a babysitter. It's like that's just a parent not having time to do stuff with their kids. And I get it. It's hard sometimes, but I can't imagine doing that.
Did either of you have video games growing up when you were kids?
Heck yeah, but we never played them. We could only play when it rained. We're old here, so it's like when we have the
I had Atari Pong. Over that 10 minutes to me outside.
Yeah, and then I think we had Nintendo maybe.
Okay.
But even when we were a little older, some of the Wii's and stuff started to come around. But even my parents were always pretty strict on you got to play it when it rained or something like that. But our butts were kicked outside every day.
Right, exactly. It was something you did when you exhausted yourself on everything else. That was physical, and this was just like, all right, I've got 5 minutes before dinner. I'll just see what this is all about.
Yeah, we never were allowed to play it too often.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. So what do you plan on, or what do you do this time of year? It's early September, and the summer has gone by. What has transpired for you on your farms where you're planning to hunt in the fall? What kinds of things have you developed so far?
Well, most of the work is done now. Every single day that we're home, it's something you're planting and plant everything from trees, all your food plots. And it's not like you just go in the spring and plant your food plots and you're done. I've got 140 something fields now that I do in food plots, and it's like 500 acres worth. So, you try to get the corn and beans and clover and alfalfa in the spring, and then you plant until you get to June 15th, and that's my drop dead date for corn. It's too late for corn. You can still do beans some after that, but it's like, they're not going to be great. So then I switch over. Okay, let's start fertilizing. Let's start getting everything ready for all of our rack radish stuff. It's all like our radish and turnips and those kind of fields. So the month of June, you're getting all those ready, fertilized, getting them dished up, and everything else. About the middle of July, I start planting those. And then, once I'm done with those, I don't like planting those into August, maybe the first couple days of August, but then I cut that off, and then you start doing the same, getting fertilized and everything for all our winter wheat fields and stuff. So it's not you plant once and you're done. It's the entire summer to try to get everything done. And then I'm just like, now, normally we're not even home at this time of year. It just worked out that I had a couple of days at home, because we normally we're out on the road, we don't come back. But we had a sheep hunt in the Yukon and a hunt for muskox in Greenland. So we had to fly to those. So now we'd come back and hop on our bus on Friday and we'll head out west, for mule deer and elk and antelope and all that to finish it up, before we get back. So normally you got to have everything done by the time we leave, like the middle of August. And then, you just hope that there is no disasters left over when you come back. But, you just, at least every farmer, make sure we got some good, solid food plots. If something doesn't make it or something that, it's not the end of the world if one of them doesn't come in. As long as I got, before I leave, I make sure that every farm has got good food on it, and we spend off time putting in apple trees and pear trees and all that kind of stuff, and feeders and cameras. And so even though I may not have everything done when we leave, I have enough on every farm to be satisfied with, hey, there's plenty of food there, everything's looking great, that I can feel good about leaving and going hunting on the road. And then when I get back, I'll just kind of pick up the pieces when we get back. Gotcha. So it's a ton of work. But I mean, love it, but it's never done. That's for sure.
What are some of the disasters that could occur?
Well, like for me, my disasters are somebody doesn't check a field. Like I say, I have a bunch of disasters right now, stuff that I planted in, turnips and stuff. And not that they're disasters, they're still like the turnips and rape are coming in good. But we've had so much rain and heat here in August.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is great, but that's normally not the case. So now I get back and I go and look at some of these, and you got, weeds, a foxtail that's 4 foot tall in there. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to get out there and take care of that. Normally, you wouldn't have that kind of moisture and heat in August. So that's, when you plant them in July, normally that's your dry period. So you're hopefully you get a little bit of rain on your turnips and rape and they come up good. And, the cool season grasses are normally done growing, the foxtail and all that stuff. And you don't have a weedy mess. So, but now with all this rain and stuff, our clover fields have weeds growing up in them and turnips and everything. So you're out there trying to spray them all with, Select Max and kill all the foxtail off of them. And then just so when we get out hunting over them, I want them to look beautiful and perfect. And not that they necessarily even need to be, but I'm just super anal about them that way. I want everything to look like a green, lush carpet when I'm out hunting over this stuff. I don't like having a field full of weeds in it.
Right. Gotcha. That's I guess you create your own problems in a sense, and you never really know what nature's going to provide. So you have to kind of
exactly.
You got to be ready. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I planted some of those fields like turnips and rape stuff earlier than I probably should. I started some in the first part of July, and but my last one I planted the first week in August. So you kind of spread them out over the month, and you hope if it turns out super dry, late, you hope maybe the first ones are going to do okay, and if it's super wet, you hope that the first ones might be real weedy, but the last one should do good. So you kind of spread everything out, and you just kind of play the averages, and you hope that you don't have too many disasters. And not that they're disasters, they're still food in them, but weeds just suck up the nutrients. They take a lot of your fertilizer out, so you don't get the healthy plants that you would without them. So you just try to kill them off and everything. And plus, you let all that foxtail go to seed. You don't do anything about it. It all seeds out next year. You have 200 billion more foxtail plants coming up. So you just try to stay ahead of all that stuff, but it's tough.
I would think it'd be tough just being a farmer. And how many people do you have trying to maintain the acreage that you do? Not enough.
Yeah, well, I'll say 50% of them are on this phone call right now.
All right.
It's Tiffany and I got two guys that work for, but they, Mike films and drives the bus and does the stuff, and Matt does most of our row crop stuff and helps with some of the
and then
stuff.
after we have Cameron, I'm pretty, it's like,
yeah, Tiffany's time is limited now. It used to depend on her to be mowing and stuff all the time, and now that's kind of cut down. So really, basically three of us, and and we have 500 acres of row crop stuff that we have to do too, and there's CRP paperwork and all that kind of stuff that. There's a lot that goes into it.
And then just have our regular appearances and our sponsor obligations and our show stuff and everything else. It gets to be a lot sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It's overwhelming. You talk me off the cliff half the days because you drive. I get home from 2 weeks and you drive around. And there's trees over fences and fences are down and neighbors' cows in your place. And it's just some days it's just an absolute fire drill trying to get stuff done. You're like, oh, my gosh. Sometimes you're just overwhelmed. But, we always get through it.
Do you ever? So it sounds like on occasion you'll feel stressed out at the end of the day.
Oh, a lot of times.
Okay.
A lot of times. Yeah.
And it's you just have to kind of put it behind you and go on the next day, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this morning I was telling Tiffany as I had all right, I got to pick something and do it because I had 50 things, and every time I look at my phone, there's a new thing that comes up. Hey, can you do this? This time, can you do that? Can you make this appearance when somebody needs to come up and they make it on the 23rd? Again, this phone call with me tomorrow. And pretty soon my head was just spinning. I was like, all right, I got to pick something because I got 50 things going here right now and I'm getting zero done. So I'm just going out. I'm going to go and complete something before I can get to the next one. Because the longer a day goes by, my work can double if I pick up my phone and look at it.
Talking to Lee because he kind of creates his own stress in all honesty because it's like he cannot stand not to be doing anything. And so he's got an opportunity to potentially go on a sheep hunt at the end of September. And I'm like, why don't you just stay home and just clean up all your stuff, get everything organized? He's like, heck no, So I mean, like I said, he kind of creates his own craziness.
Yeah.
He loves every second of it.
Yeah, I'm not happy from not going Mach 10 with my hair on fire, but I guess that's what I've been used to for 15 years since we moved here and stuff. I sit still for 5 minutes and I would go stir crazy.
Gotcha. All right. Do you do any kind of deer monitoring?
Well, we watch them throughout the summer, and actually, Tiffany's got my phone right now.
I just look at pictures right now
because I got cell cameras out, so I got some of my place where I got my biggest deer that I've been watching stuff out. You don't know. I mean, you don't know where big ones are going to show up, but by this time of year, I know where there's several of them. So I got cell cameras on those, so I don't have to. Even when I'm on the road, it'll pop up on my phone. I can check it and see how the deer are doing and stuff. But as far as buck to doe ratios and numbers and all that, I don't really pay any attention to that this time of year. I just want as many deer on our place as I possibly can. Even we got farms right now. There's just tons of does, hardly any bucks, just some little ones. But that's all right. As soon as rut comes around or crops start coming down, so if I have the does, I'll have the bucks. But I usually know what bucks are here now, and I know which ones should be here that were here last year that aren't yet. And a lot of them will show up, and some of them never will. But I kind of leave it to hunting season. We got so much work to do in the summertime that I'm always checking cameras. I know what bucks are around and all that kind of stuff, but not as much as buck to doe ratios or anything like that. I leave that for hunting season.
Okay.
Then I'll look at all that kind of stuff as I'm sitting out hunting. And then here in Iowa, we have a late doe season that is after our regular season. So if there's some farms that their buck to doe ratio is way off after the season, I can go and start harvesting a bunch of does and things and kind of try to even things up. But I haven't had to for several years with the EHD we've had over the last 4 years. We haven't shot a doe in 4 years, really, because the numbers have got knocked so down so far. I want to build it back up as fast as I can.
Gotcha. All right. So there's Mother Nature has taken care of that aspect of things as well. So you've laid off a little bit. All right.
Lee and myself see eye to eye about straight rows and having everything buttoned up and looking good when you leave out of the field. So we'll get along great.
Exactly.
But this is a touch base a little bit. Like say you guys leave some corn standing. Let's touch a little bit based on a standing cornfield. How much acreage do you leave? And when you start mowing, how much do you mow down at a time?
I leave as much as I can. I mean, a lot of times you think, well, 10 acres, that's way too much, but it's not. We never have any left over. No matter how much we leave, it's always gone before the end of shed season. I mean, we never, I don't think ever have gotten to, okay, it's starting to green up and there's tons of corn left in that field. Now it's going to go into beans. I'm going to have tons of regrowth corn. I'm going to have to spray and stuff. I hardly ever get that. And basically because you'll bring in way more deer. I mean, if you have 5 acres, they'll wipe it out. If you have 10 acres, they'll wipe it out. If you have 20 acres, they'll wipe it out because it's amazing that how much 200 deer in a field can eat. But that's what I like. I mean, I want to bring all those deer in, and they don't live there. They're you're bringing in deer from 5 miles around. Those numbers just grow exponentially as each year goes by. All the fawns that are there now, they ate there, but then they get kicked out by the doe, and during the year, and so they may be living on the neighbors, but when it gets cold in late season, they remember where they ate as fawns, so then they come back, and then they're bringing their fawns. It just grows exponentially, and it's nice to have all those there because you kind of do one chance to take a look at all your neighbors' bucks, and you get the sheds off them, and then if you got your neighbors' bucks there, if I can hold them there for 3 months, almost till green up, a lot of them will stay, and that's the one time I can relocate them. So I'll leave as much corn as I have room for. I mean, we just bought a buddy, and I bought a place. It's 350 acres, and the guy had already planted some food plots, the previous owner, and there's the cornfields are maybe 3 or 4 acres, and to me that's too small. That it won't. If you were to mow that whole 4 acres down, it would likely be gone in 2 weeks. Maybe it might last. But then there's a big piece that's not in CRP, that's just grass. It's because the guy just had small equipment. Like most people, their food plot stuff, they might have a little 20-horse Kubota tractor and a little disc. And, to do a 5 acres of corn is a pretty big task if you have little tiny equipment. Right. But on that big piece of grass up on top, I can go push some of these little cedar trees and brush out of there, and I can probably get 15 right in the middle. And so that's a good start. It's not going to be what I would consider enough on that farm. But we just got another piece I actually am in Missouri that butts up to it, because this farm butts up to Missouri, and that place got like 70 acres of row crops. I said, well, that's perfect. Then I can leave 20 there if I want to, so I'll make it, enough. But I'd like to have like 10 to 15 acre corn and bean fields, at least one, if not 3 or 4 on each farm. It just, we can bring in enough deer that you'll never really have too much. I mean, maybe you'll have 80 acres or something, but usually I like, if I can get them like that 10 to 15, and several of those, 2 or 3 of those on a farm, that really brings a lot of deer in, where I'll have really good numbers, and then I can get a good look at all the neighboring bucks. If there's a big one anywhere within 5 miles, he'd normally end up on our place in the wintertime. So at least, I can get the sheds, number one, and then, you get a real big one. Sometimes we've had, 200-inch deer move in late season after the season, and say, okay, well, then I just make sure there's food there. We can have feeders, not during hunting season, but after. So I'll put feeders there. I'll get all my alfalfa fields and clover fields that I have. I bale all that up, hang on to it. So in the wintertime, I can put out bales as well as corn, so make sure they have roughage and not just corn. So it's still, it works in their digestive system. It's not just straight corn that runs right through them. They need that roughage. So I throw out all the alfalfa bales. And so if I can keep that food there for those deer, and I keep them there, like right up to green up, a lot of those bucks will stay. And if they don't stay, they always are coming back, during the season. And ones that just showed up in January or February one year, the next year, bang, as soon as we hit late October, they get around Halloween, bang, they're coming in checking for does. They knew they saw there was 500 does on that place, 6 months ago. So normally I'll always get them. They don't relocate them. They're always coming back in and checking for does, and you slowly bring them over. So, it's you try to get as much as you can. How everybody can't do that, but then when we mow it, like I'll mow it, I'll just mow 2-3 acres, because if you mow the whole thing, they just eat it twice as fast, because those deer will not go into the standing corn until all the corn is off the ground. So you just mow a few acres, and so you hold them all in a small area, kind of where you want them. So you can kind of put those deer wherever you want to. If you have a stand, okay, this is good for northwest wind, perfect. Okay, I cut a piece that's good for northwest wind if that's your predominant wind. So you can kind of hold them right in that piece. And when it runs out, then they'll start going into the standing corn, and that doesn't help you much. You can't see them in there. So then you just mow another piece, but once they start walking into the standing corn, then you're out. And so you just cut a little bit more. And, usually an acre or 2 at a time, sort of cut.
What's the odds of this strategy? Is it, can you give me a percentage on the success rate of having that many acres of standing corn mowing down particular farms? What's the success rate on the kill ratio?
Well, I can put it this way. I'd say the first 30 or first 20 years of my hunting career, I probably shot 3 170 plus bucks in my first 25, 30 years of hunting. And since, we moved down here and started doing this, I've shot at least 1 over 170 every year for the last 15 years, and sometimes 2 and 3 in a year. So as far as I'm concerned, Tiffany and I both shot giants every year since we've started doing this. So I'd say it's 100%. I mean, for us, because we've got time to hunt too. And there's, it'd be different if we had, a normal job where I can hunt the weekends or get a 1 week off here. I mean, we got from October 1st to January 10th to hunt every single day. So that's a big factor in it too, that, you got time. I mean, we probably put more time in a tree stand than I did in 10 years, before. I probably put 10 years worth of hunting in one season. So a lot of it is time, but strategy that we had with the food, and that it's 100%. I mean, it's been 100% for me. It's been 100% for Tiffany. It's been 100% for my buddy Tom, who's a partner. There's very few people who, come down and hunt, that are our partners that, come down and put enough time in. They come in late season when, it's cold and cornfields and bean fields are really working to your advantage. There's basically almost 100%.
Yeah, it just makes sense though, and hearing it from you just puts more grasp on it, just it really makes sure you focus on the food.
I never really thought about it that way until nobody's ever asked me that before, but now I start thinking about it. It's like, yeah, it is. I mean, it's 100%, but the thing is, it's just not everyone can do it. I mean, we're just so blessed to be in the position that, I can do that. A lot of the farmers around here is like, man, you're crazy. You leave all that for deer. And they're like, well, hey, you do it for cows and you sell your cows and make money. I make money off a TV show, same thing.
Right,
you know,
yeah,
but
and
not,
it totally makes
not a
sense,
lot of
but,
people,
you know, in
not a
their
lot of people
mind,
can
it's
do that.
not making sense, you know?
Yeah,
It's the same process, and
exactly.
You're feeding a livestock. It's just a different livestock on the other side of the fence.
Exactly.
But it
So,
sounds
but, you know, I understand that not everyone can do that. You know, even if you had all the money in the world, it wouldn't make sense to spend, you know, well, geez, you're going to spend $200,000 on food plots, but you could just go do 10 awesome hunts and, you know, for that, you know, but for us, we're kind of in a unique situation that it is our business and, you know, I got to have, you know, you got to have enough deer because there's like 5 of us that own the property and stuff. So, you know, and a lot of like, it's just me and one of my buddies and 2 of Tiffany's cousins, but now all of them have kids and wives and stuff that come now. So, I mean, it's getting to the point where there's quite a few people that for me, I gotta make sure that my part of the deal is that I make sure food plots are in, stands are up when they come down and they go out and have a great time hunting. So, you know, it takes a lot and takes a lot of different fields and very careful planning as far as, you know, the strategy on not putting too much pressure on anything. Because, you know, you'll hear that from people, if I hunted a man's place and no pressure. No pressure. We hunt it every single day. That's what piece of public property even gets hunted every single day. So we have to be so careful on how we hunt it and where we hunt it and how we, you know, do things that everybody can be successful and that not every one of our big deer is living over on our neighbors. So, you know, it's a lot of strategy that goes into it too. You know, it's a lot of food, but there's a lot of strategy in how you hunt it and when you hunt it and all that kind of stuff too, because it's a ton of pressure. Let's face it, people think, oh yeah, I can hunt in your place. Well, there isn't but there's not many farms anywhere that get hunted as much as ours do.
Right. It's just being smart about your tactics of going in and out and setting it up.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into a little bit of like ground blind placement on the cut corn. Is that something that you put the ground blind into the standing corn, or do you try to stand the edge of it? Or tell us a little bit about what you do to set that up.
Yeah, I mean, we have stands in places, but the best way to do it is, you know, put that ground blind just so we're so successful. They'll put them right in the standing corn. You can hide them in there. You can get in and out. That's the one time you can get in and out every time with deer in the field, never spooking anything. And that's you look at it, it's like for us here, it's predominantly northwest winds, but that's not always the case. I mean, you have south winds and stuff, you know, quite a bit too, especially these last few years when it's been warm. So I actually plant the fields for particular winds. You know, a lot of times we'll go out to spray it, and, you know, we spray everything ourselves now, but when we used to have the co-op do it, they're like, what in the world are you doing? You know, the rows would be all goofy angles and everything. So, well, it's because when I cut it, and, you know, you don't want to be looking down the rows when you cut it and have it blind there, because then they really see a big thing there. So you want to, you know, you got to have your rows in which way you think the wind is going to be, which isn't necessarily always the way the field lays. So, you know, you got little, you know, short runs of corn and stuff where it could be, you know, it might be so easy to plant it the other way, but I would just plant it so the rows are, you know, perpendicular to the wind. So you can put your, you know, you knock out a couple of rows, leave the front one standing, put a ground blind in. So if you stand out there, you'd never see anything. You'll see the wall of corn. Okay, well, now you got to be able to shoot and stuff. So you knock out the little holes, you know, for to shoot out of, and then you take all the stalks and stuff and put them all over the blind and stuff. So it's, you know, they see the kind of the black holes there, but the deer will always, they get used to that in like 2 days.
You actually go in, and when you plant this, you don't plant it just like a squared up field. You lay it out to be able to hunt it.
Yeah, for which winds. And so like on each farm, you'll have maybe 2 cornfields down. Okay, I'm planting this one for north winds and this one for south winds, so I can always hunt it. But it is nice. And then, you know, a lot of times I'll leave a wide row right down the middle of it too, you know, instead of having, you know, you're trying to do everything on a 30-inch row. Okay, I'm going to skip a row and do a 60, and that's the one I'm going to walk in and out of.
Makes
you
sense.
Come to the edge of the field, you know, John, you have 10 acres of standing corn. You maybe have a half an acre of cut width at the other end.
Right.
So you can walk down that 60-inch row without you can get in there quiet and come in, tuck in right in the back of that. And if you deer and turkeys in the field, you walk down and sneak into that without them ever knowing you're there. And then when you get out, the same thing. You're walking, you know, 600-700 yards out the cornfield at the other end, and deer that are in that piece that you cut never know you were there. So one time, like talking about the pressure, you can hunt those every single day because nothing will ever know you're there if the wind is right.
That sounds like a beautiful setup. Let me ask you, how much grief did co-op give you when they sprayed and you planted like that?
Well, a lot of times, they're doing it when it was short, so I didn't cut across it. You don't have to, because you try to turn 120-foot booms around on something that's not even hardly that wide. But so we spray it all ourselves now. It's like, and then nobody gives me flack about it. But yeah, you plant it.
I can only imagine
which way the winds are going to be. Yeah, which way the winds are going to be is the way you plant it, not which way the field lies easier.
Right. If I was a co-op guy that was running a custom spray outfit for co-op, I'd pull in a place like that. Like, I tell you, this guy's got a long way to go.
Yeah. Because you have a field that's 200 yards wide and a mile long, but you're planting it all the short way. You're like, why wouldn't you do 5 passes with a 12-foot planter up and down? You'd be done in 10 minutes instead of spending half a day doing them all sideways. Well, because that's the way the wind is going to come right down this thing, and if they're looking down the rows, I can't sneak down the rows to come into the thing, and you can't. You're blind to look like a giant blob when they can look down the rows. I need the rows to be sideways. The wind needs to be perpendicular to them, to the rows. So it's a hassle and tough to do, but when you're hunting it certainly helps.
Yeah, I'd say between the farmer and the co-op guys, you're probably not on their favorite list.
Yeah, that's right. Do it myself now. We got our own sprayers and everything now. We just do it ourselves because a lot of times even on that, since it wasn't like a 200-acre square field, they can go run. We were always kind of last on the list. But, when they got all the big farming stuff done, and okay, we can get over there. But that time, the weeds were so tall that already zapped all your fertilizer out and everything. So now we need to do it ourselves. So we got everything from 4-wheeler sprayers to Ranger sprayers to fall behind sprayers to big sprayers. I got something for every size field and everything now. So
it's just something that you got to have. If you're going to do it on the caliber that you guys are doing, the agricultural side, as far as the food plots and all that, you've got to have multi-tools, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Pulling an acre field with a 24-row corn planter, it just don't work out.
Yeah. So we've got everything from 4-row planters up to 12s, and then and then from drills, from 7-foot drills to 15-foot drills. Kind of over the years, just to keep acquiring a little bit every year. And in 15 years, you look over our barns and stuff. Holy cow, we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's all stuff that you use. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
As far as your soybeans, you just plant them normal. Is there any particular brand or that's got a better height for taller beans or anything that you look for?
Well, most of it I've just been doing just regular beans, but just our Pioneer beans, and they those guys are really good to work with. I'll tell them, hey, I don't want these to shatter. I want them to fall out of the pods, early. I want them to hold as long, so they have different varieties that it's okay. These ones will hold, in the pods way longer and stuff. I've used like Eagle beans in the past, and I still do once in a while, like on some of our smaller fields that don't have great soil and have a lot of deer pressure. We have some fields, like it's a 17-acre field, and I just decided this year I can't plant beans in there anymore because there's so many deer in there that they'll never come up more than 5 inches tall, no matter what kind of fertilizer, what kind of anything. What you do to it just won't. You can't do it.
And so is too fast for them.
Yeah, and so like I did that in Eagle beans one year, and it came up so it looked like about a normal bean field. Look, I got up to maybe 2 feet tall, maybe. But the pods are so small, compared to regular ones, and little beans that they ate it out so fast. And that's just like, you see those Eagle beans in some places, they're 8 feet tall. So mine maybe got 1.5 feet. So, if you have places that get some pressure and are smaller, like the Eagle beans, those can really be good, to actually get some tonnage out of it. But for me, it's just, I have other places to put them in. So if it's too small or too much deer pressure, I'll just do corn, and then I'll switch over. I'll do like 2 years in a row of corn, and then I'll switch over to turnips, Nebraska mixed stuff, and then go back to corn.
Gotcha.
You just can't do it.
What's the rotation on your crop fields? Do you try to turn them every year, or are you back-to-back corn? You worry about disease? What do you do there?
Yeah, I always rotate them, corn and beans. There's a few times that I'll do back-to-back corn. Not very often, but like in that field I'm talking about, I'll do that too. But then, you talk to guys at Pioneer, they'll have, okay, here's the variety you're going to want for that. Here's the herbicides you're going to want to use for that, just to make sure you don't, start damaging your soil or anything. So they're real good. The guys at Pioneer for us have just been awesome to work with. We tell them what we want to do. It's like, okay, if you want to put beans back to back, it's not good. We don't recommend it, but if you have to do it, here's the varieties you're going to want. Here's what you're going to want to do for that. So, people can even plant stuff. You see some farmers around doing beans 8 years in a row, and it's like, well, you can do it. It's probably not good for your soil and everything, and I like to keep mine as good as I can. So we usually rotate everything, except for just those rare cases we might do, back-to-back corn just because I can't get beans in there, and then go to turnips and stuff. And the corn, I mean, all of it works so great, but the corn is just nice that you can, on some of those bigger fields, if it's beans, all you can do is hunt tree stands on the edges, and, you got a 15-acre field. To get that deer, 50 yards from you, it isn't always that easy. But, with corn, you can, with the ground blinds in the corn, you can really be hunting them wherever you want. So it makes it a lot easier with corn. So, that's why we try to, I really like the corn because on those bigger fields, you can do it. But there's other things we've done on those big fields to get a deer in front of you too, and beans by putting rubbing posts out there and stuff. And I'll go like down that whole edge and cut all the licking branches off where they make scrapes. And then I'll put a rubbing post out in front of the stand at 30 yards and take those branches that we cut down and put those on that rubbing post. And just so like that whole side, there's no place for them to rub on, or, no licking branches, anything. So you can get them to come over, even in a big field, and they'll come over that rubbing post, hit that licking branch over that. So there's things you can do to get them, within bow range on those big fields too. But, corn is always a guarantee with the ground blinds. You can put them right where you want them.
Yeah, this makes sense, Lee. It's amazing the information that you're like a Rolodex of a farmer, a deer hunter, a biologist. Not only are you educated, but you're putting things to the ground, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing is, like, for like 15 when I moved down here, I'd never even been on a tractor. I didn't know the first thing about any of it, so it was a big learning curve. But if you 24/7, 365 days a year for 15 years. I mean, I could have, in that 15 years, I could be a brain surgeon by now too. But you spend that much time and effort in learning stuff, you pick stuff up along the way. But it's true though. I mean, there's no bigger fan of hunting and deer and stuff than I am, and still am. I think Tiffany was just on me about it today. She was like, maybe if I had horns, you'd pay more attention to me. All stuff I'm out doing stuff all the time, but that's a true story. Yeah, that's a true story. I got the text on mine about 2 hours ago.
It's got to play a role, and your focal point this time of year, Lee. And I can understand where Tiffany's coming from, also. But your focal point is on what pays your bills, in a sense. The deer hunting, and it's a huge factor in your life. It's your livelihood.
If it didn't pay our bills, he could care less. He did that well before we were ever making a dime on it.
It's a good excuse for me, though. Hey, it's our living, and it is. But I would be doing it whether it was or not. But like I said, everything. People would ask about, how does a flash camera compare to an infrared? If there's any things that I want to know, I have live cameras. I can sit and watch it on my TV. So I put different cameras on and see how they react to cameras and all that stuff. So I mean, but anything that you could ask, I mean, that's where we go. We've been doing seminars now for 15 years. So I said, we just do question and answer. What do you guys want to talk about? To be honest with you, there's probably not that many people that could do that because they probably get questions that they don't know. But for me, I feel pretty confident. You can ask me anything about anything, and I've thought about it, and I've done it, and I've tried it, and I've looked at it and experimented with it. There's probably not. I don't think there's a single question I've ever gotten stumped on in 15 years that I could just say.
Just ask a personal question.
I don't know.
What's our anniversary?
Don't ask me any of that kind of stuff.
What was she saying not to ask you?
When's our anniversary?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we'll leave that subject alone. I bet he can tell when the deer's going. He could probably tell us the date the deer's going to drop their velvet, but he can't tell us his anniversary.
100%. Yeah. They just started.
We're not going to step on that snake pit. No way.
Yeah, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
Tiffany's trying to get
my number one hit list deer that I'm looking for right now for this year. He just shed last night. No kidding. So, does he got a name? Big brow tine. Oh. Well, I tell him the big brow tine deer. He's on one of our farms. He's got just giant brow tines. I mean, and they were always split. I've got triple on one side. That one side's probably got 20 inches of brow tine on it.
Wow.
And we probably have higher scoring deer because it's a 10-point main frame, and they're not super long tined or anything like that. And we probably have higher scoring deer. But I've just been watching him since he was 2 over there. Even when he was 2-year-old, it was like, man, look at the big brows on that thing. So 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 now that passed them, I've seen them, and had encounters with them. And man, that thing is so cool. Those browse are so awesome. And now they're fully mature, 5, and those browse are. I mean, if you put them up on a wall with it next to a 200-inch deer, your eye would be drawn to this thing. I mean, he's probably got. It wouldn't surprise me if he's got 180 inches on him. But those brows are just incredible. I mean, they're like 15 inches each, and then plus they're split with it has like another 8 inches on the split, and now the one side's got a third one going off the back. So I wouldn't be surprised if that one, his right brow tine, has got 20 inches total horn on just one brow tine.
What buck is Tiffany after this year?
PD, I would say. A buck named PD that I had an encounter with last year that Lee made me pass up from Kodiak bear hunting. I'm like, Lee, can I shoot this buck? He's like, no. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, he was 5 last year, and I just didn't know if he was, I just thought he had these big ribs on the inside, and last year he put a big extra point in there. And I was like, well, maybe if you left him another year to 6, maybe that rib on the other side, he put that big extra point in there. Which he did. He put a little point off of it this year, but he was actually probably was almost 180 inches last year. At the one shed where the inside point was like 90 inches, and he was 5 years old. And now let's let him go another year.
30 yards.
Yeah, he was out there right an hour at 30 yards. So she was a little sore at me about that one. All right, well, he's bigger this year. He's not a ton bigger, but he's bigger, and he's got more mass, and he's got more height, and he's got. It's funny because that big inside point went off in between his 2 and 3 last year, and now it goes between his 3 and 4. It's moved down one, and then that rib on the other side just put a little point off the inside, but it's such a big rib in there that the mass measurements, even though he's not like a super massive deer or anything like that, his mass measurements are going to all be real big because those big ribs going off the inside. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't come close to 190 or 180s to 190 for sure this year. But since she had good encounters with him for 3 years in a row over there, so I guess it's time to go hunt him, I guess.
Right. What do you base a buck that you're going to take this year? How do you figure that out with the caliber deer that you're looking at?
Well, a lot of it comes down to, are they over 5? And a lot of them we leave to go to 6 and stuff they want, and a lot of it is, I just kind of want to see what they'll do. You get to the point where that you don't really want to shoot them anymore. You're like, let's see. But when I think they're topped out, when they go like 2 years in a row and they don't really do much, okay, they're topped out. But a lot of it is just, which ones like that big brow tine deer, I've seen them for so many years. And like last year and the year before hunting, I had good encounters with video footage. So just for the show purpose even, like if I go out in the first 5 minutes and shoot the big brow tine deer, if you went to an outfitter in the first 5 minutes, you went and shot a deer, say, okay, what am I going to do for the other 26 minutes of the show? Right. But like for me, I could go out and shoot them in the first 5 minutes, but I could probably do 2 episodes on all the encounters and the sheds and everything else that I found. So, you think about, okay, I've passed that deer in the past, even when he was, a big deer at 4 and stuff that, okay, well, I should probably shoot because I gave him the pass several times before. And then just even for our show, you can put a good episode together with all over the years of passing them and seeing them and got in the sheds and everything and then shooting them. And so that's why Tiffany PD is probably one of my favorite deer. He's just such a big frame. I mean, just a big square frame. He's probably the prettiest deer that we have. But, Tiffany passed him last year, so it's like, hey, you could have killed a 180-inch deer last year and you didn't, so you deserve to go get him now that I think that he's even a little bit bigger. So that's kind of the way, between Tiffany and I, it's like, what deer did you have encounters with? And what deer did you pass over the years that can make the best episode? And even, when you pass something, we pass a lot of big deer that we never see again, that neighbors shoot and all that kind of stuff. So, you lose a lot of them that you look back on and you say, man, I should have never passed that deer. We passed on 200-inch deer and that neighbors have killed and found dead and never made it through the next year to get them to 220s or something like that. So it's a gamble. So when you gamble and the deer's still alive for you to hunt next year, it's like, well, you should maybe get rewarded for that. In a way, you kind of feel like, all right, I passed Tiffany passed a 180-inch deer last year, which isn't easy to do. So, all right, it makes it, when you go shoot them at 190, it justifies that. People always say, God, I can't believe you passed those kind of deer. And say, yeah, but I wouldn't have shot that 190 if I would have killed him. I wouldn't have passed him the year before when he was 170. Or the year before when he was 150, or the year before when he was 140, where I would have shot him 20 years ago. So it just, you like to be rewarded for your management plans at times. So that's kind of how we figure it out, what we're going to shoot, what we're going to hunt, and you have them on the hit list now. But by the time we get to October, you may never see them again. They may totally disappear. A lot of deer in Los Angeles, they just disappear. You never see them again.
Is there any particular buck that comes to your mind that you passed on and you look back like, man, I should have never passed that one?
Oh, I could probably name 100. You know, you can go look at our EHD pile of deer and all these ones that, you know, it's really sad because you see deer that you passed and you find them dead from EHD over the past years. And you got ones that you passed, your neighbors shot. You got somebody that you passed that just never showed up again. I mean, I had one right, you know, we call Anvil, and passed him. Even last year, must have been over 180, but I just thought, you know, let's just give him another year to get him to 6. And then I hunted him a bunch at 6 and almost killed him a couple of times. And he just got lucky, just how those old deer do sometimes. Just one more step, and you know, he's right there. He's following the doe, and he's right there. Just take one more step out where I see your vitals, and a little nubbin buck comes in. He has horns literally 2 inches long, goes and chases that doe from this giant buck, and she goes running. He goes tearing off right back behind him, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, 6 more inches, and I would have shot that deer. Okay, but then the next year, it's like, man, he was just going into a giant. I mean, he put on the spread and points, and I mean, he was going to be over 200, so I was like, man, that's probably awesome that I didn't get a shot at him. I didn't think he'd blow like that at 7. And then middle of July, he just stopped showing up, never saw him again. And then you just don't know. I mean, not that passed him, I would have killed him that year before, but you know, he just got through, which a lot of them do. But, you know, one of the biggest deer we ever had was probably like a 230, when we called Taser, and I was hunting him, and then he broke some points off. You know, he got all these outside flyers and everything. And he was only 5. I mean, you know, I was like, he still has some growing to do, that thing. He could go to 240. So I just, all right, I'm not going to hunt him. I'm not going to shoot him. And just let him go, and then found him dead right in the middle of the farm that year. You know, who knows? But even last year, we had a giant one that was like maybe 190 inches, but he was only 4. And I was like, God, he was tempting. Though you look at it, like, oh, he was just a beautiful deer, and but he blew so much from the year before too, from 3 to 4. I was like, man, I really shouldn't shoot him. But it was tempting, you know, because he was so big. He's, you know, upper 90s, I'm sure. But then he broke a couple points off. Okay, that's easy. Now we can pass it, let him go. Right. November 15th, I had a picture of him chasing a doe across the field. Never had another picture of him. Never saw him again.
No kidding. Huh.
Yeah, I'm assuming that neighbor shot him, you know, because, you know, we were trying to lay off him because he was only 4, but nobody else was going to. Nobody else was that dumb. You know, when you saw him, you go, holy cow. I mean, he had 3 points that were over 13 or 14 inches, just towering tall, and, you know, stickers and stuff. It was an incredible buck.
You think with neighboring farms there that, you know, the neighbors hunting that would, you know, and I'm sure, Lee, if they ask that, you'd be more than happy to tell them the age and what you know about the buck, because obviously you're educated about your herd there.
Neighbor Walt from Mississippi, they are great. Him and his son went hunt, and, you know, and I'm always so happy for them when they even shoot deer that we're hunting. But they've been awesome. I mean, it's okay, these are the deer that I think you should wait, and they do, and they hold out. You know, being from Mississippi and never shot deer that big, and the way they hold out, but it paid off for them, because Burks, you know, there was a deer that I was hunting, I called Crown Royal. You know, I was hunting them every day too, and he shot him, but I was super happy for him. I was like, hey, you know, that's the kind of deer. He was like a 7 or 8 year old buck. I mean, just getting pictures of him, but very sparse. He wasn't like a resident deer that was there all the time. I get pictures of him every year, but just a few times a year. Right. But that year he was just showing up a bunch, and you know, I was super pumped for him. It's like, hey, that's what we all hunt for. I'm not mad that my neighbor shot him. It's like, hey, you know, over the years I've shot a lot of good ones. I mean, it was great to see him shoot one.
Right.
You know, so he was just thrilled. I mean, it was a giant buck. I mean, we call him Crown Royal because his twos kind of, they split like up into like 4 points up at the top where almost you could they'd hold water in them almost, you know. So look at a crown on the back on the twos.
Yeah.
And he's like a 6'6", just giant mass and stuff. And, you know, so he shot him. So you know, that's all it really takes is for them to get neighbors on board. Is they say, okay, I'm passing, I'm looking for the deer, and then they shoot it. And wow, you know, that was definitely worth it. If I would have shot that 140-inch deer that came out like I would have normally, you know, we never had a chance at that. And then Walt last year, you know, we had all kinds of really good bucks over. Even that big Brown deer is on that farm and stuff too. And he would see him all the time. It's like, no, he's only 4. Let's let him go. There's a big 10 that was like 6 that I had pictures of a ton earlier, but then he kind of disappeared. And it's like, he might be over on you, Walt, but that's one you want to look for. And like on his 3rd or 4th day out, he shot him, and, you know, big, heavy thing. And, you know, so they're really on board, and it works great for them. It works great for me.
Yeah,
because,
that's really cool.
Yeah, and I don't mind that they shot them because those are the deer we're supposed to shoot. What bothers you if you got a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old that could be at 220 someday, and they're shooting them when they're 160s. You're like, that's what just kills you. Is, taking their potential out. That's him. Yeah, he's totally out of velvet now. He had it hanging this morning. Now he's totally out. I can get a better picture of it for him.
No kidding.
But yeah, he's out there right now.
It just goes to show you, though. It's just like last time you was on the show here, you was talking about a farm that was crossed away from you, and was holding some of your biggest bucks, And here's a guy really had no clue what he had on his fingertips there. And
he told me he's like, I'm never going to shoot a good. Yeah, I'm never going to shoot any good deer. You shoot them all.
Right. So he had some of the better deer at his place.
Yeah, Tiffany shot Sandman on there. All of that big deer Wally that she killed. We could have shot him over there. Yeah, I mean.
It just, it's just amazing. It'd be a true blessing to have a neighboring farm to you guys. There's no doubt about it. It's just the program and the land management and the conservation that you put into your piece of land that you're hunting on is phenomenal. And, hats off to you guys for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our neighbors, some of them when we first moved here kind of didn't know, and they're mad because they're places that they used to hunt and stuff.
Right.
And now everybody's shooting bigger deer than they ever have because, it's just they're all wild deer. I mean, it's not like you have a high fence or anything. So your farm's only going to hold so many good bucks. So, every 3-year-old will never shoot a 3-year-old, and I will never shoot a 4-year-old. So it's not like on a 500-acre farm, 200-acre farm, or 150-acre farm, or whatever. It's not like you're going to keep stacking them. It's not like, okay, I got the 500 acres. Now I got 47 5-year-old bucks on it. No, it'll hold 5, 4 or 5, and that's it. The rest of them are out on the neighbors.
Right, right, yeah.
So we don't shoot any 4-year-olds, so you're dumping 5-year-olds, especially when they're 3. A lot of them, have a lot of 3-year-olds, but when they get to 4 and they're ready to be prime breeders, they don't want the competition. If there's bucks on top of them, they'll go over to the neighbors. So our neighbors are shooting bigger deer than they ever had. I mean, we got neighbors that said, man, I've been hunting here. My dad, my grandpa have lived here for 200 years, and that, their family has lived on those farms, that we've never shot anything like we do now. It's like, yeah, because you got somebody that's letting all the 3-year-olds when they're 160s go, and now all of a sudden they're 4-year-olds and we're letting them go, and now they're 180s, and when it's down to 5, and there's older deer even than them on the farm, and they're getting, you're booting 5-year-olds out onto neighbors that are 200-inch deer, So everybody benefits from it.
What do you guys build water sources?
Yes. And not like some places, when we used to hunt over in Wisconsin a lot, like in Buffalo County, they put water all over on those bluffs because it was so steep and ridgy and stuff. It wasn't like they had like running creeks and stuff. Like ours, we have a really lot up and down with lots of creeks, lots of water. Almost all of our farms have like running creeks and stuff going through them, and that's kind of why I think we've had a problem with EHD so much. We have had that water. So we do, and a lot of times, like on my food plot especially, it's worked great. If we're going to doze in a food plot and it's got a little bit of, some slant to it, well, let's just put a big pond on that edge so it can catch the water that's, draining off the thing and have a nice pond right in the food plots. We have a nice, beautiful, like with Tiffany, has killed a lot of deer, and she'll probably kill Petey on it. That's where a little field we call it the Jordan field. It was both Phil and Tyler Jordan. The first year I put it in, killed deer on it, and it's just a perfect field. It's right in the bedding area. It used to be all cedars, which where they all bed anyway. So it's pushed out a small, probably only an acre and a half, and just beautiful clover in there. And you got perfect trees because it slants way off down to the road. So you get a west wind that blows right over the top out to the road. You never get picked off in cedar trees. You never get smelled, winded if you get any kind of a west wind. And then it's got where it slopes. I put a big pond in it. So it's got a pretty big pond. It's early season. The deer coming off the big fields in the morning, they're always coming. They'll drink out of that pond. And so you got food and water and right in their bedding areas. So they're always in there during daylight because they come in the morning, mill around in there and eat and drink before they bed in those cedars. The evening they get up in there, and eat and drink before they go out to the big field. It's a perfect spot.
Well, sounds like it for sure. So you just go in and bulldoze up a small pond, just enough to take runoff water and leave them with a water source.
Yep. And, you got to make them, make sure you got a good clay bottom to them and stuff. They don't like get weeds in there. And if you start getting a bunch of weeds and muck and stuff in there, then we'll just put chemicals in there to kill those and put, stuff we use for our dogs, that you put in the water, put in there to keep it, good water, So if you get a good clay base on it, it'll hold a good pond in there. And we have them pretty big. I mean, like that one on that Jordan field is, it's got to be 50 yards long and 20 or 30 yards wide. So like, if you get a clay bottom where you don't get, the weeds in there and deer run in there to kill the weeds out of it, so it doesn't get real mucky and stuff. And even like for our dogs, that Fortiflora that we put in their water, sometimes you got to take it out of ponds or something when we're hunting, you put some of that in there to make sure it's good, clean water, and then I spray around the edges, with Rounder, the little backpack sprayer. Try to get too much weeds around the edge just to keep it nice and clean in there, so they really like to drink out of it. Some of them, you have the little ones, if you don't do anything to them, it'll just be it looks like a, duckweed stuff all the time, and you can't see water. All you see is green muck and stuff in there. And then it's like, now that's detrimental as far as mosquitoes and bugs and, the midges that they get an EHD from it. So I try to keep it real clean with clay. If there's no clay there, then I just won't put a pond in there. But if it's a lot of places when you're doing these, you get into clay, and it's, all right, let's put a good clay bottom pond in where I can keep it good and clean, and make it a good drinking source for them. And every year, we just started doing a lot more with trees like this year. I'll call it the last 5 years. I met a guy at Dixie Deer Class in Kenny Hallman in North Carolina, and so every year I contact him, and he hooks me up with pear trees and apple trees, and it's phenomenal. He does such a great job to ship them anywhere, and there's no dirt on them. He's put like the root balls, like they're probably 7 or 8 foot tall pear and apple trees already, and there's no dirt on them, so just the roots in there, and he puts them in a plastic bag with gel in there that keeps them wet, puts them in a big box and ships them to me. So I try to get a few dozen apple and pear trees every year, and so every year in each farm I try getting more and more. It's got to get an apple orchard going. Let's get pear and apple trees here. And a lot of times in strategic places, a lot of them are right in my bigger food plot there, big clover food plots. All right, let's put 3 rows of 10 apple, and then row of pears, and then a row of apples and a row of pears. Get like 40 trees right there, and kind of where up on the top end where my stands are at, so I can look over Cloverfield, but then I got these 40 apple and pear trees, and within 2 years, those pear trees are producing pears, so you got them coming to that kind of a draw up to that end of the big field. So it's, it's never done. You can always make it better. We started hinge cutting a bunch of stuff, in our open, timber that's kind of getting a little bit open, doing that this year. So, it never ends. You can always make your place better and getting better CRP fields in, and bedding's tough. Too much for me to take on myself. I try to take a piece of something every year, outside of planting, and, over the next 15 years, hopefully all the farming will have good fruit trees. We'll have, perfect bedding, switchgrass and big blue stem and Indian grass, CRP fields for bedding and everything. But as of right now, we're a long ways from it. But at some point before I die, it'd be nice to see all the farms perfect the way I want them, but that'll probably never happen either.
Right. Touch base real quick on that hinge
I'm not
cutting.
going to live that long.
Is the hinge cutting, if I understand this right, you just go in and you like quarter saw the tree where it'll break over and almost strip the tree in half and keep greenery on the tree on the ground?
Yep, that's where I just was before I came over here and got on this, looking at some of that stuff, and it worked really good. You see all the trees, that the leaves are just big, lush green leaves on them now, and I cut them all in the wintertime, like in March, before they were leafed out. So, some of them will break off, when you're doing it. If you let them hit too hard, something will break off. But, so you're at about 50 to 70% really broke good. You do it about shoulder level, and you go through about 2/3 of the way and let it try to, as slow as possible, fall over, and try to drop some other smaller ones and bigger ones on top of it to kind of, create a bedding area for them where they can get underneath. They really like being underneath those tree tops and stuff, but they got to still have an escape way where they can get out. You don't want to close them in too much, but if you can keep that greenery growing, so all those leaves are for food wise, that they get it all the leaves and everything that are right on the ground. Plus it's, cover for them to get out of the sun. They lay underneath those things. Then you just open up the canopy, where they can get sunlight in there and start growing more under storage in there and stuff. So it really, it does a really good job at all that if you don't plan on timber harvesting, because it makes a mess. Because if we got them, it's like what I want. It's perfect deer cover. But if somebody went and said, okay, I'm going to go and, harvest timber, they go, oh my gosh, how do we even get through this? Because it's a jungle. Trees, 15-inch round trees laying all over the place and everything. So, if you're going to plan on timber harvesting, so I do that first, and then, all your mid-sized trees, and like the rest of a lot of hackberries and stuff that are just not, they're just crap trees. Those are the ones that really kind of focus on to really drop a lot of them out of there. And really, you drop enough that you got,
when you look up, you say, okay, there's going to be sunlight to get through here. If you just go through and do a few here and there, it'll never do anything to your, the canopy. You won't see any improvement. So, I mean, you go in and I go down a ridge, 200 yards, every single tree, and 200 yards, 300 yards long, and 100 yards wide. Just so, okay, I can look up and say, no, there's sun going to get in here. You can't just do a few. You can do a few just to make a couple good bedding places for them. If you have really open timber, okay, I can drop a few, but it's not going to thicken your timber up. I mean, it's got to get sun through there. Because even when I was just there before I came here, and some of it looks great, and some of the places I didn't do enough, because I can look in there and say it's still all shaded under there, even though I see trees laying all over. There's no sunlight breaking through. So, it's harder when you do it in the wintertime. There's no leaves. You'd think you have a hole, but once it all leaves up, well, I guess it wasn't enough. So I'm going to have to go in and do more on some of that stuff just to be able to get the sun through there, to grow that understory. So you really got to do a lot more than you think.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So you're saying you went in and did 200 long, 100 wide, and pretty much laid everything down.
Yes. And it's a big ridge and there's a road at the bottom. They have food plots on the other side of it.
Right.
And the timber was so open, you drive your car in there or truck in there, and you see 100 deer running. I mean, you just driving in there. You can't even get in without moving the deer out. Because they like laying on that, especially late season, because it's south-facing hillside. So they all lay on there in the sun, but they can see a half a mile through there. So that went down that entire ridge. I mean, that ridge is probably half a mile long. I mean, the road going back in there. So I went down the whole thing and did half a mile worth of it, the whole top. I mean, we had like 7 guys. It took me like a month almost to go and just do that one part on that farm.
Wow.
And I had a bunch of guys come down for like the weekend and stuff, but then I was doing it every day during the week myself when nobody was there. But so you do a big chunk like that, and then that you might have a drainage, not just a solid, ridge. You'd have, the cuts through it where the water comes through. So I'd leave, okay, let's leave a 50-yard corridor here because it's such a mess. Deer can't even, they like to bed in it, but they certainly can't run through it. Okay, let's leave a big, a corridor that they can walk to the food plots. So that's going to help me too. So I'd strategically put those where my food plots are. So, okay, if you have this big mess on this whole side, okay, here's my food plot and here's my stand and stuff here. I want them to come down that hill. Okay, this is where you can kind of focus them where you want them to come across the road and go into the food plots, by your stand. So, you kind of make a strategy on all that too. You're going to make a giant mess of stuff where they want to bed in it and stuff, but it's not easy walking. I mean, it's not like they can walk through it. It's a tangled mess. So you leave places, okay, where do I want them to be able to come through this easy? So, and right now I can see the highways coming right where I left them when I was going through. It's just highways coming across this road. I mean, it's not a road, it's just my farm road. It's in the middle of the farm, so it's not like a public road or anything. It's just my farm road that they come across because that big hillside's up on one side, and then the other side is around my food plots.
How did you educate yourself on the hinge cutting?
Oh, just looking on YouTube videos and stuff. I knew I had to thicken it up, so you just look on, talking. Well, my buddy Greg Rich did a bunch at his farm in Illinois, so he was talking about it. One of his guys that filmed for him, films for us too, so Jared was down there helping him do that, so he had all the foresters in, and they did it, so Jared was there filming some of that, so he knew how to do it. That's right. Jared was the one that told me. He's like, no. I said, well, would you keep going? You keep doing it? Oh, yeah, just wipe out the whole thing. So you think, well, gee, you're cutting 200 yards of every tree down that. Well, yeah, they're not standing, but they're still on the ground. It's a mess. I mean, and you cut things at shoulder level, so they're all hinge over. So you can crawl, you can go underneath, like deer can get underneath all those stumps and trees and everything. It's not like they're down on the ground. They're all hinged, but you do them at shoulder level. So it's 5 foot of trunk sticking up and then down. So they can pick their way through it and lots of good bedding stuff and everything. But okay, now you get sun coming through this, you get new brush growing up in there and stuff, but then they leave those corridors that they can walk through and stuff. So he helped me a lot on that too, because he had, he the foresters to do it. And so kind of learned from them. Makes sense.
Now, I like to be there the day the guy comes to give you the walkthrough on doing some big timber clear cutting for you. He'd be like the co-op guy, wouldn't he? Like, well, you got a long way to go, buddy.
Yeah, well, we've never taken any timber off of any of our places yet. I mean, because most of it, when you buy stuff, here, it's not like Minnesota where the whole northern Minnesota is all timber. I mean, it's sparse, it's more sparse here. So just about every farmer that has owned it, took every penny worth of it off, that they could already. So, some of ours I've had for 15 years. They're getting to the point where you could probably take some off of it. But, most of them you buy something, before farmers ever sell it, they take every penny worth of trees off of it and get everything they can off of it before they sell it. So there was nothing that had any timber value on it when we bought it. We're starting to get some now. Some of our oak trees and like our oldest farm, like our house farm, that's the first one that we bought, and it's been like 15 years. We're starting to get some of those 20 to 22 to 23 inch oaks on it. A lot of them, though, we probably could go in and do that. I'll start thinking about that soon. And not that you really do it. We have everything just is for deer habitat. So it's not, hey, I want to take it all off for money for it. It's like, okay, it's starting to get a little open, that timber, those bigger trees are starting to create too much of a canopy. Maybe we better go take some of those out and leave those tree tops on the ground for cover and open it up and, thicken it up some. So
yep, makes sense. It's just land management for your whitetail herd. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You're
nothing
a
about
Rolodex of
profit
information
on it for us. Yeah, it's nothing about profit for us on that stuff. If you make some money on it, just will go into our farm fund for food plots and stuff. But, we do what's best for deer, not what's best for our wallet, for sure.
Right. Makes sense.
Lee and Tiff, when you guys are out at the coffee shop, do your neighbors come up to you and shake your hand and say thank you for all the things that you do in your place? It seems like they're benefiting.
We've never been out in a coffee shop. I don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't even know most of our neighbors. Been here for 15 years, and maybe I know a couple.
That's funny.
Farmers that I might talk to or something, but I know
like when we're homebodies, man. It's like we either are at our house or I run a few errands, but otherwise we're at my mom's house. It's like we're just homebodies,
That's funny.
Yeah, we're gone so much, and every weekend you're doing appearances and commercial shoots. There's just so much going on. It's like vacation is time at home. I mean, so when we were at home, we were working, or I know some of my immediate neighbors that just do farming stuff, or if the cows get out or something, that's help for it. But it's not like we go out to. We don't go to bars. We don't go to restaurants.
Yeah,
it's like we don't really hardly know anyone. I mean, we're 15 years. I bet I count on one hand the people that I know.
That's really funny. So do you see your neighbors at all? You wave to them when you're driving by, or is this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you wave at everybody.
You wave. It's a wave.
I haven't spoken 5 words to 99% of the people.
Do you think they know who you guys are?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a small town. Let's face it. The gossip, I'm sure, goes like crazy around. Because you have a TV show and stuff. So everybody, who knows what they say about this? Because they don't want to know. Everybody don't want to know.
Right.
People gossip. The ones we know they're awesome. I mean, they're always nice people. And but we just don't talk to them because we're just not out. I mean, people come over to our house. Yeah, great. We talk to them. We know like they're Jim Honorado or our mayor. He's over all the time and he watches it. Lets our cats out when we're gone and watches their house and does stuff. And like our game wardens are friends of ours, like Matt and Mike, who work for us, both are on the deputy sheriffs too. And they're on the reserves now. But like Matt used to be full time, I think, maybe he's always been on the reserves. But so they know all, and that's all their friends are all the game wardens and the sheriffs and everything. So we know all those guys. Just them, the 2 guys that were the only 2 employees that I have.
We meet more neighbors at the Iowa Deer Classic.
Yeah, that's true. We go to the Iowa Deer Classic where we meet most of our neighbors when we're working. Yeah, but next year we'll be, really nice to meet you. Because it never, at home we're just going a million miles an hour working and stuff, but you don't ever get a chance to.
Your neighbors got to come to the show to see who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That is perfect.
Yeah, very few people. But, when it comes to hunting, like neighbors that are hunters, then, like the neighbor I know more than anyone is Walt, and he lives in Mississippi, but he calls and texts and emails, stops over, because we talk deer all the time. Farmers and stuff, you talk, hey, great, we've got rain, or you talk, crops a little bit here or there if I see them in the co-op or something, but that's the only place I'm at, down getting fertilizer or picking up seed or doing something. You might see a couple neighbors there, but other than that, you're waving at them as you're driving by. We don't go. I mean, a little town of Salem, there's bars and cafes and restaurants, gas stations. I've never been in any one of them. Never even been in them, let alone, spent any time there.
Right. Or bought a cup of coffee. That's funny.
Yeah. I don't drink coffee, so that's
there you
go.
All right, that would probably be the reason.
That's out of the question.
Yep. I've got 10 rapid fire questions for both of you. I haven't prepped you on any of these, but it's kind of a get to know you a little bit better. Lee, what's your number 1 hunting tip of all time?
I would say cameras. Just using cameras. That's what changed the game for me.
Okay.
For good and for bad, but it changed the game for me. I mean, killing more deer, and you know it, but there's no surprises, so you take some out of it. But
for me, I say take your time. You have way more time when you're hunting than you ever think, and a lot of times you rush a shot and you miss or you jack something up.
Okay, gotcha.
Really good tip right there.
Very nice. We all have these things that we kind of consider good luck charms. We're a little annoyed if we leave them in the truck or at home. And if it's not in our pack with us during the hunt, it drives us crazy if we don't have it. What's that one thing for you, Tiffany?
My prey bracelet, the little blue bracelet that I wear all the time that our friend Pastor King gave me.
Gotcha. All right.
And mine is Tiffany's dad's dog tag. I have those with me all the time.
Gotcha. All right. Very nice. Lee, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Wait, she's sitting next to me, so you can't. That's incriminating.
Ooh, ouch.
Oh, boy,
all right,
let him go now, Jay.
Weeds in my field. Weeds in my clover field.
Weeds. Okay. Tiffany?
Boys slamming doors at my house. I hate it. Our bedroom door is by the back door, and I hate when they slam the door because I used to get in trouble for that when I was little. In fact, I locked my door for like 2 weeks when I was younger because I used to slam the door all the time.
That's her dad took it off the hinges.
Yep, he took it off the hinges.
Wow. All right. No slamming doors.
That's a good one.
Lee, how old are you today?
50.
50. Tiffany?
Yeah.
41.
41. All right. What would you tell, or we'll start with Lee. Lee, what would you tell the 25-year-old Lee LAKOSKY, knowing what you know today?
Well, I wish I would have started a lot earlier. Like, I in college, I just didn't know what I wanted to do right away. So I went and got like a degree in economics first. And then by the time I got to 25, I was like, hey, you know what? I got to do something specific. And it was always around hunting. And it was like, okay, if I want to, you started seeing like when you're knocking on doors and stuff, it used to be easy to get, like when I was a kid, to get permission hunting, but you see all that going away when the whitetail craze kind of took over and stuff. I was like, all right, I got to go back and do something more specific, something that I can make up money. I got to buy my own property. So when I was 25, I went back to college and got a degree in chemical engineering, and then started making enough money to buy some properties, and then we just kind of got lucky and ran into this. But I would tell my 25-year-old me, actually it would be nice if I had my 20-year-old me to say, hey, get your butt in college and don't worry about having every weekend having to drive down and look at deer. You should be studying every week because you have the rest of your life to look at deer. But you got to go out and get a good job and a solid education and everything first before you're going to be able to get any of those things in life you want. I wish I would have done it earlier.
Okay, gotcha. Tiffany, what would you tell the 20-year-old Tiffany LAKOSKY?
The 20-year-old Tiffany LAKOSKY to finish college.
Finish college.
Stick with it and finish college. I never did, by the way.
Are you any plans to do so?
No, not anymore. Years ago I used to think maybe I should go do that, and then now I'm like, well, I'm pretty happy right now. Yeah. I'm just fine with where I'm at right now and taking care of our son.
Right. Life's an education anyway. As a whole,
exactly.
You learn a lot. All right. You're at a hunting convention. You're at the hotel lobby, and a stranger comes up to you, and we'll start with Tiffany on this, and they ask you what you do for a living. What do you tell them?
That I'm a host of a television show, a hunting outdoor television show with my husband.
Okay. All right. Lee,
and I'm a mom.
And a mom. Very nice. Lee, what do you say?
Same thing. I mean,
Actually, because they were rednecks from Iowa. We're like,
yeah, because if it's at a hunting convention, most people know you anyway.
Right.
A lot of people are like, hey, it's St. Tiffany now. And they're, you get that all the time. Oh, I can't believe we're meeting. It's like, we're just rednecks from Iowa like anyone else.
There you go. Very nice. All right. Lee, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I did.
Peanut butter toast.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Made it for you.
Tiffany made me a piece of peanut butter toast.
2 pieces of peanut butter.
Yeah. Normally I don't. Normally I just, if sun comes up, I run out the door and I'm out working. I kind of tend to forget about it most of the time. But Tiffany was there, so she made me peanut butter toast this morning.
Very nice. Tiffany, what did you have?
I had a banana with Cameron and the rest of his apple cinnamon oatmeal.
Beautiful. Excellent. All right. Tiffany, you get your own billboard. It's a blank canvas. What would you put on it?
A picture of our family with our dogs and our baby.
Beautiful. Lee?
And, of course, a couple extra deer trophy shots in the background.
Of course. All right, Lee.
Like a Christmas card.
Oh, yeah, a Christmas card. Very nice. Lee,
yeah.
What would your canvas look like?
I would have something that about the hunters are the true conservationists. Because like Timmy said, of course, the family and all that stuff, but that's not something that's something for me. I don't need to share that with everybody else. But if just everybody knew, what the truth is about hunting, we'd have a lot easier time with this because, the anti-hunters, even them, if you could just sit down and talk to them, because you're on the same side. It's like you look at the anti-hunter, the guys out of the anti say, look, we're doing the exact same thing. You just have different ways of going about it. I love animals as much as you do. I mean, I spend every penny I'd make on these things. I love these animals. Yeah, I shoot a few, but I feed thousands of them. Look, we're on the same side as you, and we're just doing something about to make sure that the conservation. Look at the turkeys were almost extinct. The NWTF comes in. That's not anti-hunters. That's hunters that come in and do that. Hunters are willing to say, hey, all right, let's shut down hunting. Let's shut it down here until we get these back. They want to see those animals thrive, and it's because we care about them, not because we want to slaughter them. It's because we love them. We love out in nature. We like seeing them. And of course we shoot a few, but I feed 1,000.
Right.
And if you could really get those anti-hunters just to come over to your house and listen to you one time, you could probably, get them to understand you more. But, just the 80% of people that are just non-hunters, that's probably stuff that they don't really know. We've had people like Karina Smirnoff over at our house, and she's part of PETA, in Hollywood, that they grab everybody there, and PETA will want to just, they'll take all their money and put it on a billboard to, against anti-hunters, but, hunters will actually put their money to something that actually does some good. How much money does PETA ever put to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation that's conserved, 6 million acres? That'll be nothing but elk habitat for the rest of eternity. How much money have they donated to that? No, they put their money on a billboard to say, stop, whatever, and to pay Hollywood people to get them to say, hey, they're part of PETA. But when she was over at her house, by the time she got done, and she wasn't like really super anti-hunting anyway. It was just kind of the thing to do, in Hollywood. Oh yeah, PETA, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll sign up for it. The same, right. Just the way all Hollywood is. But by the time she left, she was like, man, I'd like to get a bow, and they see, kind of what you do. It's because you love the animals, not because you're out there to slaughter them. For God's sake. Really. So, but if everybody knew that, there wouldn't be anti-hunters. It wouldn't have to be so, almost taboo to have to say you're a hunter, and it shouldn't. It's been a heritage. Every one of those anti-hunters doesn't have to go back more than 2 generations of their grandmother probably rolling in their graves right now, and it's just, for me, I look at, that's what kept me out of trouble as a kid. I never thought of drinking or smoking or, any of that concept. My whole life revolved around hunting and going out with my dad fishing, and things like that. If everybody's kids felt that way, we'd have a heck of a lot better, world to live in than we do now. Right.
Excellent. Very well said. All right, Lee, if I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
Well, there's the first person that popped into my mind was me and Tiffany, because not well successful, but just to be able to I spent the first part of the day shooting my bow and fetching new arrows, and I went from there, took my son out on a ranger and checked cameras and feeders, and I went from there out and fixed a feeder that wasn't working, and I went and checked some other ones on the farm. Now here talking deer hunting with you guys. To me, it's not monetary wise. It's like I get to get up every day and do something that I love with my family and spend time with them and stuff every day. So I could make something up and say something, but that is the first thing that popped into my mind when you said it.
Oh, that's great.
I don't want to be self-absorbed, but that's the first thing that popped into my mind, because I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world every day.
I wouldn't call it self-absorbed. I'd call it happy. Sounds like you're just happy. You enjoy what you're doing. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Not everybody can say that, so I understand where you're coming from. Tiffany, what would you say?
I would say kind of something along the lines of that, but more so I would say my husband Lee. I mean, he took us from being a flight attendant and a chemical engineer with not a dime to our name to owning 6,000 acres and basically running this whole operation that we do, and he does it pretty successfully every day, day in and day out, 365 days a year. And there's no one I know that works harder than him, and he's definitely the reason why we're at where we're at.
Gotcha. Very, very good answer. All right. Tiffany, what's a day in the life of you look like?
Oh, gosh. Well, is that before Cameron?
No.
Is it before I had a baby? Yeah. Is it before I had a baby or after I had a baby?
Let's go with the after. Like, what's happening today?
Yeah, well, just like all summer long, I'm so lucky because I'm home with him most of the time, really. I mean, we have a few things that we can't take him with on. Otherwise, he's on all my hunts. And Him and I and my mom actually just got back from Utah where we were mule deer hunting and stuff. And, I just am lucky to be able to take them with all the places I go. But now, you know what? I just usually wake up and we go running usually in the summertime, and Lee and I take turns, or my mom watches Cameron while we run. And otherwise it's all about Cameron and just what we're doing with him all day long for the most part.
Yep.
Just being a mom, just a regular old being a mom. So pretty much running from the second he wakes up in the morning to when he goes to bed.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, trying to shoot my bow and trying to manage all the rest of the stuff that we have to do.
In between. What time does he get up usually?
Pretty darn lucky. He's usually up at 7:30 or so. And then he usually goes to bed about 8:30. So, yeah, not bad at all.
Not bad.
Take a nap or so during the day. But, yeah, I used to think it was, of course it's a lot different for me having a baby. When I first had him, I'm like, wow, this is really different. I'm like, I had no idea how different it would be having a toddler, which is way harder than having a baby. I'm
right.
like, I do not want to ride on the Ranger anymore today. It's like he just drags me around, and corrals me to what he wants me to do. And I was like, it is so your dad.
Right.
100% except you're 1.5.
It's like you give the neediness of the baby, but give them legs and let them roam.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Lee,
he's the joy of my day every day.
That's awesome. Lee, what's your day look like?
There's nothing typical about any day, but it's the same. It's the same every day. I get up and say, what's on fire, and where do I have to go put it out? Gotcha. And if I go like 2 or 3 days, like, man, everything is looking pretty good. Let's gonna spend more time shooting my bow and let's go do something. That's a false sense of security. That's just because I probably haven't driven around all the farms that day. Because I can be sitting there and thinking, hey, everything is good. Everything's looking pretty good. All I got to do is go drive around one day and come back, kicked off and kicking the dirt. And I can't believe it. How come nobody else sees this stuff? The fence has been down for 3 days. There's 400 head of cattle in our food plots. It's always something. So it's like I get up in the morning. Okay, where's the fire? Okay, where do I got to put it out first? Okay, and just go from there. But every day is different, and that's what's nice about it. It's fun because every day is different, but it's something every day.
Right.
I get up, but it's nice for me. I get up every morning and think about first thing I want to do is Cameron.
We run the dogs every day.
Yeah, Tiffany runs the dogs every day.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But every day is different for me, but it's the same kind of thing. Where's the fire I got to put out today?
Gotcha. It's never boring, sounds like.
No.
All right. And finally, what does a deer hunting day in the life of Tiffany look like?
That's kind of another thing. Before Cameron or after Cameron? Like now, like when I deer hunt, my mom will watch Cameron, so a lot of times we stay over at her house. And, I'm not out as late as I used to be because obviously I want to get back to Cameron. And then I get out a little later than I used to now. And I tend to hunt closer to my mom's house because she's watching him. But different times of the year, I'll be pretty hardcore and I'll be out there a lot more. And then, in October, I'm out in the afternoons and stuff. But, like you said, for us, we waited a long time before we had a baby. So there's definitely been some changes to my hunting style and what I actually do.
Gotcha. And Lee,
I figure he's only little once,
That's true. Very, very true. Lee, what's your deer hunting day in the life look like?
A lot different than mine.
Yeah.
Different than yours, right?
Deer hunting for me is the off season because it's almost opposite than what most people do. For me, the off season is the hunting season because that's when I do it. That's when I figure out, find the deer, what deer I want to shoot. I learn all the stuff. And okay, when it comes to October 1st, now I go out and hunt. I'm hunting in that sense, but the work has already been done. Now and I always compare it to golf. You don't go out to a golf course to learn how to golf. You spend 1 million hours on a driving range and putting greens and all that stuff. You go to a golf course to see what you've learned. And for me, the hunting season starts kind of, January 11th and October 1st. Okay, hunting season's over. Now I'm going to go to the golf course and see what I learned.
Right.
So for me, it's a little bit different because like hunting, you said, well, it's hunting, what does a typical hunting day look like? Yeah, well, for me, it's checking cameras. This is kind of the same thing even during the season. Just checking cameras and food plots and seeing what's going on and stuff. And then, putting as many hours in a tree as you can during the hunting season, the actual hunting season. But I don't get to, like before I had this job, I'd sit all day, all the time, and just enjoy being out there. But I really can't now. If you hunt every day, you'd burn yourself out. But so my typical hunting day now looks like, hunting till 11 or so, and then running around every place, checking and finding what's going on, and then getting back in the tree at night because there's still so much work that you have to do during the season because you miss a camera or a field or something, if you go, it's been 2 weeks since I've checked that farm or that field, that camera, you can go in there, and then we've done it before. You check it, and it's like 4 days in a row. There was a giant that you wanted every day, chasing does around this little field. Okay, then one of the does was ready, took him, you never see him again. Like, you don't want to miss that you got to catch those when those, especially during the rut, when you get a big one in between does. You're only going to be in between does for 24 to 48 hours. You get those pictures of them right there, and bam, you get on them, you catch them on his feet, and you shoot them. And, you create your own luck that way, but you can't get lazy, and just say, I'm just going to go out and hunt, because you still got to know. Like, for me, I got to know what's going on everywhere. It's kind of my job, because I always got people coming, friends hunting, and Tiffany hunting, and her mom hunting, and her cousins, and whoever gets drawn, and buddies and stuff. So it's like, I can't just, somebody rolls in, well, I don't know, let's go try over there. I got to know what's going on and what deer are showing up in daylight, and, you got to keep your finger on top of everything. So my hunting is different than it used to be. I spend more hours still finding out what's happening than I do in a tree stand. But when you do that, though, you keep your finger on the pulse of things. You might spend way less time hunting, but you know what's going on. When one is right, you go in and you kill them. It's sometimes you're better off spending more time scouting and less hunting than more hunting than scouting.
Right. Very interesting. That's an interesting perspective, and I think that's. It says that deer hunting never really stops. It's just sometimes they let you carry a weapon, and the rest of the time you're still hunting.
Mm-hmm. I think people would be kind of surprised, like we do seminars and stuff. Like I said, we just take questions and ask, what do you guys want to talk about? What are you guys interested in? And sometimes it gets really in-depth things, and I think a lot of people are shocked at some of the things that, that they may have thought, about deer hunting. And for me, it's not that way at all.
Right.
Fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating. I learned a lot, guys. I always enjoy talking to both of you.
Do a show on deer hunting or on babysitting. She's going to know a heck of a lot more. And today when I had him, okay, well, what do I feed him for lunch?
But I set everything
you
up.
set everything up. Well, I don't know. There's chicken nuggets out there. Do I put them in the oven or the microwave? So, how do I dress them for inclement weather? How do I... There's things that she knows, but when it comes to deer stuff, then you come to me. You want to know things about how you open a can of peas, anything that I couldn't figure half that stuff out. You ask her about that.
Gotcha. Oh, that's funny. Well, it sounds like you're both learning how to be parents, and that's very interesting.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's definitely a fun adventure. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, and it just gets funner and funner. It just doesn't seem like ever getting any better, but every day it gets older and it's doing something new, and I just can't wait. We finally get out there and start, hunting and fishing and all that stuff with us. Where he goes now, but there'll be a point where he understands that it's going to be real fun.
Right.
Exactly. Watching him, just the way it was with Tiffany. Tiffany never hunted when when we first started dating and stuff. So those first years hunting for me was more fun filming her and watching her, shoot her first deer and her first good deer and how excited she get. And it was more fun watching her than shooting them myself. And it'll be the same thing tenfold when he starts,
Yeah, when they start calculating their own strategy and get successful at it, now you're like, now that's awesome.
Yeah. But you don't want to, just from my experience, don't rush it. Enjoy the age that he's at right now, and don't
for sure.
Future, because man, it'll be there before you know it.
Yeah, I know it. Absolutely. That's that's why I got to keep myself in shape. And then people say when you ask how old I was at 50, most people are like, oh my gosh, I thought you were 40. But we didn't start till late. I didn't get married till I was 35, and I'm 10 years older than Tiffany. But it's like when we really couldn't have kids. We were on the road all the time until her mom moved down here. And I was like, all right, if we're gonna have any kids, we better start now, or me and the kids are gonna be in diapers at the same time, because I'm getting up there in age here. So now it's like, all right, I got to work every day, make sure I keep myself shaved, run every day, because I want to be, I want to be sheep hunting with him. So when I'm 70, I want to be up in the mountain sheep hunting and stuff. So it gives me good incentive to keep myself in good shape and everything. And knock on wood, hopefully, I'm still sheep hunting with him, when he's 20 and 30. So
that might be a show first of its kind, really. I don't know if I can think of any where you have a father-son relationship that's distant, but still hunting, and both parties in shape and actually going after sheep. That would be insane.
Yeah, have my walker up on the mountain trying to get over
there. Whatever. Helicopter you in.
I think I haven't changed my diaper. My Depends for me. And I did that for you.
I did that for you, son. Oh, that's awesome. Guys, it's been fantastic. It's we're well beyond the hour, but I apologize for keeping you on. Just it didn't seem to.
Oh, that's all right. Like I said, I could sit and talk till tomorrow morning on hunting. We didn't even get to more pressure and less pressure. That's the way. Right. We get into that. There's another hour. So maybe we talked about it last time. I don't remember, but that's one that comes up in seminars.
I think if you'd be up for it, we can go for a round 3 here at some point in the near future. And I think
anytime.
There's more to cover.
You guys. Yep. There's definitely more to cover.
Well, thanks to Lee and Tiffany for joining us on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. I tell you what, listening to Lee talk about his strategies and his environmental plans and all the things that he does, it's mind-blowing. And thank God you were on the show with me, Dusty, because he's into the farming aspects. I can't keep up with him, but this is your bread and butter.
Oh, man, me and Lee see eye to eye, and the knowledge, it's just something that I've been around my whole life. I'm real fortunate to be able to talk with him about a lot of subjects that maybe others couldn't, and his knowledge on the seed and on preparation for the soil, his layout of his, down to the road direction that he needs for the wind that he needs on the farm. It's just amazing, the thought and the whole process that that Lee puts into his fields. And we cut up about talking about how somebody come in and sprayed for him, and they would probably think that he's crazy for planting his rows like he did. And they're running over corn that they went halfway across the field and it switched directions. He planted the other way for a ground blind setup. Somebody that may not be a hunter that's a farmer wouldn't understand what he's doing there, but I can just visually see how he's laid the fields out and the reason why he's laid the field out that way. And, somebody like myself could go in there and understand exactly what's going on. But, it's just the knowledge that it takes to be a successful hunter in the aspects that they are. He talked about the percentage of the corn that they mow down and they hunt over it. The question that popped in my mind is, what's your percentage rate on success after you've went in there and bush hogged down this corn? And, he said, well, I've never really thought about it, but, that's a great question. And it's 100%. We've been 100% successful over that. That tells me somebody in the caliber that, Lee is and Tiffany both, that if they're telling you that they're having 100% success rate over cut corn like that, bush hog corn, it's something that myself as a hunter or anybody else that's a hunter that has the access to cropland, you better take that information and soak it into your brain and utilize it and capitalize on it.
Absolutely. There's the guy just is full of knowledge, and I think we did a pretty good job extracting his knowledge so that we can all apply it to our day-to-day activities between the first show we did, which was a long time ago, and this show.
Yeah, that's the to be continued show.
It really is.
Done with Lee and Tiffany as far as pulling more knowledge and talking about subject matter that really helps the hunter.
Right. And when we talked to Lee and Tiffany off air, or all of us concluded that there will be at least a third show, maybe more than that, as we kind of chronicle what has happened throughout their season to see what successes they had with all the work that they put in.
Yeah, Tiffany and Lee predicted a mature buck in the cooler by October 8th. So, that's something that I'll talk about on the show. I told Tiffany that I'll be texting her back and forth and seeing if the success is there and by the 8th of October. But I tell you, they sent us over some pictures, Jay, and holy moly, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep.
They're after some great bucks, and, we would expect them to be after some great bucks after the seasons that they've had previous years, and that they've earned it. They've worked hard and put the effort and the knowledge and the technology, and that hard work pays off, and they're living proof of that.
Absolutely, very much so. Now, so this show is like loaded with tips. So how do you follow that act, Dusty, with the Chubby Tines tip of the week?
It's not going to be easy, Jay, but I think that I'm going to go with
the Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
The available knowledge out there on equipment that you can purchase, reviews, facts, demonstration videos, you need to utilize all that when you're going to buy or spend your hard-earned money on a piece of equipment that your life's dependent on, or your success of killing a mature whitetail is dependent on. Take the time, review the products, watch the videos on how to put it together, there's a lot of things out there that could be beyond your skill level, and you buy it and you can't get it figured out. That's something that you need to take into consideration when you're spending your hard-earned money on a product. Do the research, Google it, YouTube it. As myself as a hunter, before I buy something, I check it out. I go through and find out where the flaws are and why and how. And if it's a good product, there's going to be great reviews. I mean, that's just the way it works. So take the time and research your products that you're buying to go to the woods with. Tree stands, trail cameras, all of that's it's all information that's available right at your fingertips. Just take a little time, slow yourself down. I'm excited, no different than everybody else, to buy a new product, but I definitely want to check it out and make sure it's something that's functional for me. It's going to work for what I want to do with it. It's going to withstand I'm a big guy, so I got to check things for weight, size. It's got to be wide for me. You just do your research and spend your money wisely. And I tell you, it's more rewarding when you can have something that actually helps you and works great for you in the woods. It just makes you feel a whole lot better about the way your season's going. I'm telling you, I'm living proof of it. Jay, you're living proof of it. And there's a lot of hunters out there that take the time and get educated on what you're buying. That's my Chubby Tines tip of the week.
Love it, man. Very, very, very good. This it's been an amazing show, as it always is. Thank you to Morse's Sporting Goods for sponsoring the Chubby Tines tip of the week. Great tip, Dusty. Well, Dusty, when we're not hanging out here in the studio and people want to reach out to you, how would one do that?
Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. You can shoot me an email right here, Dusty@Big Buck Registry. If you got a question, I'll try my best or dangest to answer that. And if I don't have the knowledge to answer it, I will do a follow-up with somebody that can help us out, that can maybe answer your question. I try to put the effort into chasing down the answer. That's something that I take pride in. You can also look me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, how can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
The best place, hands down, email. Send me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. If you'd like to check out what we've got going on at the Big Buck Registry, things are heating up over there on the Facebook page because it's deer hunting season and it's starting to open across the country in droves. So I would say go to bigbuckregistry.com/Facebook. Check us out. If you'd like to have your buck featured on our Facebook page, all we need is a picture of you with your buck, your first name, and the state of kill. Those are the only requirements. And as long as it's a good, ethical, clean picture, we'll get it on the Facebook page, and we'll notify you if you send it by email or if you send it by Facebook mail. We'll notify you when it's going up. At this time of year, things kind of get pretty busy. Right now, we're probably looking at a few days, but I can guarantee you by the end of October, it'll probably take several months before you'll see your picture on there. So get it in early if you want to get that recognized in front of almost 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans. You can also find us on Twitter at twitter.com/Big Buck Registry to subscribe to this podcast. We're not just on iTunes. We are also on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. And if you wanted to check out any of those places, you can go to bigbuckregistry.com/iTunes. If you're an Apple user, you can go to bigbuckregistry.com/Stitcher. If you're an Android user, you can go to iHeartRadio, bigbuckregistry.com/iHeartRadio. We are officially there. We still got a couple little kinks to work out. They put some weird nomenclature next to our name, something to do with religion, and I'm not quite sure what that's about. So we're gonna figure that out and get back to you. But you can also find us on Google Play, and that's bigbuckregistry.com/Google. And you find us on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's everywhere where we are hanging out.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Certainly is.
Thanks to all the friends and hunters that download us week after week, Jay. We really appreciate it.
We really do. It's humbling. I can't believe people want to listen to us talk, but the reality is we're bringing good quality deer hunting information to you each and every week. So that part I get. But just another amazing show. We're going to keep doing this as long as you keep downloading. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast powered by USA Trail Cams. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.